Hey there, I'm Dave. I appreciate you stopping by to listen to me talk about another book that nobody talks about. And today is a book that I have been interested in reading. There's three reasons that I've been really interested in finally getting this one off the shelf and reading it. And we'll get into those reasons shortly. But I'm talking about The Face in the Frost by John Bellairs. This originally was printed in 1969 in hardcover by Macmillan. My copy is the 1978 first paperback edition by Ace, which has got a pretty decent cover there by Carl Lundgren, which actually does depict a scene in the story, and I always like it when the artist ties the cover into something that's going on in the story. And it's just not one of those marketing things. And it also has some interesting interior art throughout by Marilyn Fitchin, I think her name is pronounced. She did the cover for the hardback edition, 1969. So that's kind of cool. I'm not a huge fan of interior artwork, but it was nice to see in here. All right, so the first of the three reasons that I was more than normally interested in reading this book is the author, John Bellairs. Now, he was born in 1938 in Marshall, Michigan, so that makes him a Michigan author, which is always extra couple of bonus points for me. And Marshall is just a small town kind of in the south central part of the state that is just south of 94, north of the border. So he, like I said, he was born there, raised there, and originally he was destined to be a priest, and he went to Notre Dame for college, but after graduation he kind of went in a different direction, and he ended up teaching English at several Catholic colleges before finally giving into the bug in the early 70s, just devoting his life to writing. Now he eventually would move to Massachusetts and make his home there, and unfortunately he passed away in 1991 at kind of the young age of 53. So that's kind of a bummer, but as far as his writing goes, he was primarily known as a children's author. And I think the most famous work that he had ever done is a book called The House with a Clock in Its Walls. And that was adapted into a 2018 film starring Jack Black and Cate Blanchett, which I saw, which I actually enjoyed. I've never read the story, but I saw the movie, and I thought it was pretty fun. Another cool thing about that, and another, more props to John, was that the house that he modeled, the titular house in the story and the movie, is actually a real place. It's called the Cronin House, and it exists in Marshall, where he grew up. So I always love to see that. So when artists kind of ties things back to their hometown. So the second reason that kind of got my interest in reading this book is a blurb on the back. There's no summary on the back, just a couple of blurbs, but this blurb from Lynn Carter. And I'll just say that I'll just quote a couple of the relevant passages here because it's a freaking paragraph. But he says, "I have read 3 absolutely first-class fantasy novels published since Lord of the Rings. One of them is Face in the Frost." And what do you call it? Absolutely first class. Okay, Lynn, you've got me intrigued now. If we're comparing this to Lord of the Rings, definitely I need to check that out. And then the third reason, and probably the least in priority on the list, is this is an Appendix N reference in the DM's guides, which I just happen to have my original copy that I bought in 1980, I believe. So yeah, it's the second in the list in Appendix N, and I did read later on that Gary Gygax admitted, I think in issue 22 of Dragon magazine when this book was reviewed, that he had never read the book before he included it in the appendix. So I'm not really sure why he would do that, but whatever. That's the way it is. It was there. Oh, and on a side note, if you're interested in learning more about the books that are cited in Appendix N, go check out Tim's channel over at Secret Fire Books. I'm going to try to link somewhere, probably in the description, to a playlist that he has where he's doing a series where he's going down through the list of Appendix N books and giving his thoughts. It's really good videos. Go check that out. So anyway, let's get on to what this is about. So our two main characters are two wizards. One named Prospero, not the one you're thinking of, and the other Roger Bacon, which apparently is the one you're thinking of. And they, primarily Prospero, he's set upon by some wizards basically effing with him. There's some manifestations that occur around his house that have got him on edge. I mean, things from the titular face in the frost on a window pane to manifestations of wolves outside his door, just kind of giving a menacing sort of feel. So he basically gets in touch with Bacon, and they decide that they need to figure out who obviously it's another wizard. They got to figure out who it is. And now there's a few clues that are left behind by some of these things that the wizard does. And they decide that they're going to sort of break out of Prospero's house because they're surrounded by these various illusions or not, and head over to the wizard's registry and use those clues to determine who it is that is responsible for this stuff. And yep, sure enough, they get to that location. They're able to determine who it is, and it's somebody from Prospero's past. So then the rest of the story is these two making their way to a location that is significant to both Prospero and this other wizard, a point in time in their past where there's an artifact that Prospero feels that he can use to break whatever hex or curse that this other wizard has been placing on him. So that's it, kind of in a nutshell. It's really just a strange set of encounters. Now, first of all, hopping back to the Appendix N, even though I know Gygax didn't read it, I definitely can see Prospero and Bacon being swapped out for, say, Elminster and Mordenkainen. They just have that sort of bumbling, goofy, but knowing just about everything, if they could only remember it, sort of character that those two D&D wizards are. But overall, comparing this to Tolkien, I think that's where it gets really dicey. I'm thinking Carter just kind of cashed in on, he just spewed something and collected a paycheck, because honestly, this, you could definitely tell this is written by a children's author. It reads like a Monty Python-esque journey through Wonderland, really, more than it does a peril-filled trek to Mordor. Now, there are some dark elements to it, but again, being written by a children's author, they're more like a shadow under the bed than a horde of orcs, okay? So there's some silliness to it, there's some humor, lots of whimsy, just some really strange stuff. So that was, that kind of definitely killed the whole comparison to Tolkien. I just think that was a bunch of BS. It just seemed to be maybe more Tolkien spoof or satire than actual emulation. But be that as may. Some of the things that really kind of bothered me about the story, or the world really, was that there's two primary locations. There's a North Kingdom and a South Kingdom. They're not named anything other than that. They have their own monarchs that we see kind of tangentially. I think we see the South Kingdom monarch in a couple of scenes, but the North Kingdom is just kind of distant. Now they apparently are on the verge of war between one another, so there's a little bit of tension there. But at the same time, the languages that are spoken and written include Scottish and Welsh. So, I mean, how would you get... Anyway, we also have Amish buggies making an appearance. A pumpkin carriage makes an appearance. I don't know, that kind of stuff just once you start putting, you know, real world elements into what's supposed to be a Tolkien-esque fantasy, it just kind of it just didn't work for me. So, you know, at the end of the day, or in this case, at the end of the book, it was okay. It wasn't something that I definitely enjoyed. It was something I had to get through at some points. But you know, I think that I can see this being really entertaining for somebody who's a little less cynical than I am. But for me, just the whimsy was just not my bag. So I ended up just kind of dumping on this one with like a two-star rating. It's all right. I wouldn't seek this one out unless, you know, you're going down the Appendix N list and you need to read everything that's included. You know, it's not gonna kill you. But I wouldn't spend a lot of time looking for this if you don't happen to just stumble across it. So yeah, you know, it's a little disappointing. Like I said there, I was looking forward to it for 3 reasons. I'm still glad I read it. I'm glad I just ticked that one off. It was nice to see the comparisons between this is Bellairs' really only adult novel. Everything else is basically a children's story. Compare that with, you know, The House with the Clock in the Walls. That was a nice kind of juxtaposition to see that and see how they were similar. And actually, I think that The House was a little bit more, a lot more entertaining actually than this. So I don't know. I'm definitely not going to be reading any of his children's stuff, but if that's you know, something you want to explore, I would recommend just checking it out and seeing how that goes. So, all right. Well, I have taken up enough of your time, I think. So again, I appreciate you stopping by, and I hope everyone out there is doing well. And I will talk at you again soon.